Okay, so hello everybody, welcome back to our Kriya Yoga series. My name is Lucy and this is our Good Events YouTube channel. I'm very pleased to have Ryan back for another episode. Hello Ryan, it's really nice having you back. I'm very pleased, was looking forward to seeing you again.
Yeah, it's good to see you too. Always happy to be here.
Thank you. So today I would like to mention the Kriya Yoga lineage and the Kriya Yoga masters, because sometimes, I imagine when somebody comes to any kind of event or a lecture or they visit your website and they see all the faces. And sometimes it can scare people off because they are, they don't know them and maybe they think, this is a cult
Yeah.
or the personality, the gurus are so important. Do we have to bow down to these gurus? Or so my question to you is, what does the Kriya Yoga lineage, the masters, what do they represent? And maybe you can just tell us very quickly, very briefly, the names,
Yeah.
their relationships. And then it would be great if you can delve deeper into the whole importance, significance of the Kriya Yoga lineage.
Yeah, that's good. It's a good question. It's something that I've reflected on a lot lately, mainly how to describe it and its importance, because you're right. And I had that experience too when I first started learning Kriya Yoga. I came from a very small community, and yoga really wasn't that big of a thing. I didn't have any insights into gurus or these Eastern traditions. I was raised Catholic. And when I went to my first Kriya Yoga retreat, we had these pictures up on an altar, and Jesus's picture was right in the middle of all of them. And I thought a very similar thing. I thought, well, this is a little odd, but I was 20 years old and didn't quite have the understanding yet about why a lineage is important. And over the years, I've come to understand that a little bit better. So I definitely know where this question is coming from. And the lineage of teachers, just to get that out there, it begins with Mahavatar Babaji, and he taught Lahiri Mahashaya. Lahiri Mahashaya taught Swami Shri Yukteswar, and Swami Shri Yukteswar taught Paramahansa Yogananda, and Paramahansa Yogananda taught Roy Eugene Davis, who was my teacher. And there are numerous branches of the lineage too. For example, Shri Yukteswar also taught Hariharananda and so on. But the importance of the lineage is that there is a passing on of authentic knowledge. And it's not just a passing on of authentic knowledge in the sense of you go to university and you have your professors that pass on knowledge that you use for your career. There is a sense of between teacher and student, the teacher represents the ideal of wisdom, of spiritual growth, of greater clarity. And a teacher can only really truly teach what they themselves know. And when you have a teacher who has realization, who has a certain level of wisdom, they're able to pass that on to you. And each teacher has taken a route through their process of spiritual growth. And that route is like a path. And so the guru lineage is almost, you could think of it as like a trail guide. When you go in the wilderness or you're going on a hike that you've never been on before, if you have a trail guide, that trail guide can tell you exactly how to get to where you need to go. That trail guide can help you get around obstacles that otherwise might have harmed you. The trail guide can give you advice on the path ahead. And when you've got a really good trail guide, you tend to enjoy the adventure a little bit more. And so on one level, what's really happening there is you are learning from someone who has walked the path, who has experience, understands the obstacles, understands the things that can help you be more successful, and they guide you in that way. And that is useful in any realm of knowledge. I mean, even musicians, if many of you are musicians, some musicians keep images and pictures of their role models, the people that are inspiring to them, because it helps to inspire them to continue forward on their path. And so this is what, on one level, what the gurus and the teachers of the tradition do. On another level, there is an energetic quality to the experience. And how to describe this is a little harder because it moves into some metaphysical realms, but I'll try to keep it as practical as possible. First of all, if you think about the people that you spend time with, the people that you hang around, the people that are always in your circle of friends or in your community, you will notice that you will tend to behave like the people that you surround yourself with. If you have friends that stay up late and go drinking all night long, you will tend to do that. If you have friends that like to stay home and play on the computer or play fantasy role-playing games, you will tend to do that. If you have friends that are angry, small-minded, bigoted, you will tend to be that way. If you have friends that are caring, loving, supportive, open, you will tend to be that way. And this comes down to that idea of satsang, kind of a gathering of truth seekers. When you are in the orbit or surrounded by someone who has dedicated their life to divine realization or in service to God or in service of seeking the truth, they're going in that direction. And if you spend time with that person, if you want to spend time with them, you also have to go in that direction. There's a really wonderful mantra or prayer. I'm not going to say it in Sanskrit because I'm not that great at it yet, but I thought this was a wonderful prayer that speaks to this. It says, Om, together may we two move in our studies, the teacher and the student. So may this teacher and the student move together in their studies. Together may we relish our studies, both the teacher and the student. Together may we perform our studies with vigor and deep concentration. And may what has been studied by us be filled with brilliance, understanding, which leads to knowledge. And may it not give rise to hostility due to lack of understanding. Om, peace, peace, peace. And this is a beautiful prayer because essentially what happens in the teacher-student relationship is the teacher is going in one direction. They are focused on divine realization or self-knowledge. That's where they're going. And if a student comes along and they also want that, they also want to go in that direction, then the whole process becomes amplified. And so ultimately, what I've found is that lineages are wonderful, but what is most important is the direct relationship from one teacher to one student. Personally, I love Paramahansa Yogananda. I love Swami Shri Yukteswar. I love the inspiration. I love the fact that these people dedicated all the decades, most of the decades of their adult life, so that we would have this knowledge of Kriya Yoga, so that we would have this ability to practice meditation and grow up spiritually. But all those people I didn't know, but I did know my teacher, Roy Eugene Davis, and I knew the direction he was going in. He was focused on divine realization, self-knowledge. He was a truth seeker. That was his sincere direction and purpose. That's what I wanted. So by learning from him and wanting the same thing, our studies, our practice was amplified. And this is going to go a little kind of off to the side and into some metaphysical oddity. And many of you know, if you've listened to me before, I don't like to do that, but I think this is helpful to grasp this a little more deeply. There was a podcast series that was done on individuals who had, I believe it was autism, and they couldn't communicate very well. And this series described how that there seemed to be a kind of telepathy between the mother and the child. And there would also be kind of like an innate sharing telepathy between like a beloved teacher of maybe one of these autistic children and the child. And when they were talking about this kind of telepathy, this shared sort of mind experience, what stuck with me was they said, it only seems to happen when there is mutual, sincere love and respect between the mother and the child, or sincere love and respect between the teacher and the child. Then it's almost as if we don't need words to communicate. And what I found is that in this lineage, in my experience with my teacher and other situations as well, when there is that mutual love and support, the teacher wants the student to grow and to thrive, and the student wants to know what the teacher knows, and there is a mutual love and support there, sometimes words aren't even necessary. I can remember many times when I would be thinking about something or have a philosophical question or wondering about something spiritually. And my teacher lived about 8 or 9 hours away from me, so I couldn't just go down the road and see him. And it was before the internet was as strong as it is now. So we didn't have Zoom or all kinds of YouTube videos or podcasts. I had to send him a letter, or I had to write him an email and wait for the response. And the beautiful thing I always noticed is that anytime I just even set out that intention, it was as if I would find one of his books or one of his lectures I would be reading, and the answer would be there. Or if I would send him an email about a question, throughout the day, I would think to myself, oh, I understand that now. And I would notice that when I would go look at the email he had sent me with the answer, the time was around the time that I just had that insight. And again, this might sound strange, but I think you've experienced this with other people too, people you love very deeply. My partner, even my dear friends, even some people that I'm very close to musically. Like we're on the same wavelength. We think the same things. When you have that kind of relationship, that love and devotion, and a healthy love and devotion, I'm not talking about being in an infantile parent-child relationship. I'm talking about a mature, true mentor-student relationship where there are healthy boundaries. And again, that love and that respect. It's in those situations that it's almost as if information becomes transferred more easily. So whatever the teacher knows and understands, it makes it much easier for the student to know and to understand. And so in that way, the lineage is more about participating in this field of shared awareness and love and devotion for truth or the divine or God. And in that shared awareness, it makes it much easier to realize what it is that's being sought. So this is why, fundamentally why, we honor and respect the teachers of the lineage. And I'll go a little bit further trying to describe this. If you think about it this way, my teacher was Roy Eugene Davis. I spent a lot of time with him. I learned from him. I very much respected him. I studied his books constantly, and he guided me in my path and even in my own capacity to teach Kriya Yoga. Well, by me knowing him, it was like I was a part of his field and he was a part of my field. That life together, there was a shared energy or a shared quality to that. Well, Roy Eugene Davis knew Paramahansa Yogananda. They actually met, talked to each other, Roy learned from him, spent time with him. So their field was shared. Yogananda spent many, many years with Sri Yukteswar. Their field was shared. And so if you look at it, the lineage is more about this kind of greater linkage. I'm not sure how you're going to translate that, but a greater linkage, a greater linkage to a much bigger field of awareness. And it happens between individuals, but we are all part of the fields. We are all part of the lineages that we choose to be a part of. So let's forget about spiritual lineages. Again, going back to that idea about who do you spend time with? Who do you look up to? Who do you get your information from? Who guides your life? Who helps you when you need it? That is a field, a lineage that you are a part of. And when you're a part of that, you experience the same things, like families experience the same things. So in a way, this is more of a conscious connection to an awareness or a field of awareness that is spiritually inspired. And that's really the purpose of the lineage.
Mm-hmm. Yes, very good. And for example, is there any way when, for example, you feel a bit lower or you're kind of losing yourself, where this can be to the benefit of the seeker or of the person trying to get out of the situation, understand the situation better? So because this is what you're saying basically is that once there is some kind of connection, so just thinking of the person who's been where you are,
yeah,
actually connects you to his experience in a way. Is that right?
Well, that
And
seems to
then,
be, yes, yes. And I've seen that happen. I've seen that happen in so many different situations. For example, over the last several years, I've developed, I didn't really develop it. I just sort of put it together in a way to present it. I found a way to present an advanced course on Kriya Yoga. And what really I found to be really fascinating was this. Many people went through that advanced course and they did very well. And the changes they experienced, the deeper understanding they had about the spiritual texts, it was profound. I enjoyed it. But what I found was interesting was that even though just a certain portion of the student population that I work with went through this training, when people started at the beginning of my training, like the Kriya Yoga Apprenticeship Program year 1, all of a sudden they started asking me questions and describing things to me that we only really covered in this advanced program. And so it was as if, sort of this collective dynamic of the lineage, because every student is a part of that lineage too. Since one part of it kind of expanded their mind and their understanding, it's kind of trickled down somehow to where even people who are just beginning were starting to consider and touch upon and relate to that. And so in the bigger picture, it's not really simply about just one connection between a teacher and a student. It's sort of the whole body, the whole body of those individuals who are going in the same direction. It influences them. But to speak to your point, yes, since Mr. Davis, for me, he was much older than me. He was 89 when he passed away, and I think I was just 40 at the time. And so he was twice my age. And he knew a lot. He had been through a lot. He had practiced so much more meditation than I had. And so whenever I would struggle or I would have a difficulty, I would think about him and I would wonder, well, how would he respond to this? Or if I could just guess what his bigger picture view of this might be, what could it be? And just doing that alone, since I knew him well enough, it helped me to kind of expand the opportunities of my mind and the possibilities of how to relate to the situation that I was in, which was very beneficial to me. But as I mentioned, anyone who has a helpful elder figure that is wise and that they can relate to, they're going to have that same kind of benefit.
Because it's the same field of consciousness. So it's like you basically like a diver. You just dive to pick some kind of insight that's already there. And because you are in this kind of a group, so it may be easier than without, but maybe sometimes for some people it can be also easier.
Yes.
When you identify with some kind of particular field,
yeah.
to dive for the same kind of insight, the people that had walked the path before you. They had found the answer. Okay. And as far as the lineage, just for the record, last time we were talking about Lahir Mahasaya, and I was wrong about, it was right what you said, that he was married first and then met Babaji, and then he didn't want to come back, but he had to, and then he had the children. So he had already been married. But can you please summarize what these personalities, these gurus, these masters had in common? My feeling is they were very much linked or very related to the everyday life. Some of them had families, jobs. They were very, as far as Lahir Mahashaya and Sri Yukteswar, they were very bright, multi-talented individuals, also athletic. They had many interests, Yogananda too. Some of them had families. So if you defined the whole lineage with common phrases, common words, you think they all shared, except for desire for truth, for becoming self-realized. Was there anything as every human being, every normal person could relate to, they had in common?
They all had work to do in the world. I think that's the main thing. Yes, what you mentioned about the uniting thread was, of course, their desire for truth and divine realization. But aside from that, the other important principle is they all had work to do in the world, and they all had experiences that they had to live through, and those experiences helped them to grow. We talk about Lahiri Mahashaya. Yes, he worked as a clerk. He had 5 children. He had a family. He tutored people in different languages. So he was engaged in the world. He was participating in the world. And when he would spend time at night meditating or working with his students, that was bringing more light into his life, such that when he was working in the world or participating in the world, that light was accessible to others, whether they knew it or not. And that's very important. Sri Yukteswar, he didn't become a Swami until a little bit later, and his wife passed away. And he had a daughter, so he was married. He had a daughter, and when his wife passed away, it was after that he became a Swami, a renunciate. But before that, he was interested in Ayurveda. He was interested in medicine. He was interested in music, astrology. Very, very, very interested person. And his family had rental properties. And so one of the ways that he was able to have his ashram was he didn't require everyone give him lots of money for his ashram. He managed these rental properties so that the money from his rental properties could support his ability to teach and share Kriya Yoga with others. Paramahansa Yogananda, he was a little bit different, not much. He was a little bit different in that he certainly had this drive from a very young age, and he also came from a wealthy family. And so he was very much interested in sharing this, but his guru, Sri Yukteswar, made sure he went back to college, so he finished college. But then when he came to the United States, he began speaking on yoga and traveling and writing and running an organization. And many of us might think, oh, he's the guru, everything went just great, and all he had to do was sit in meditation, it all worked out for him. If you learn about Yogananda's life, he was a hard worker. I mean, to set up the organization that he did, to teach yoga in the 1920s in America, which was predominantly Christian, the struggles he had to go through. And because of all of that hard work, we have access to this material today. Roy Eugene Davis, Yogananda student, was the same way. When I think about the work that Mr. Davis did, he met Yogananda when he was 18 years old, and he became a monk. And maybe 4 or 5 years after that, he left the monkhood because he wanted to get more worldly experience. He joined the army for 2 years, serving in the medical section of the army. He thought about going back to chiropractic school, but then he spent the next 5 to 6 decades writing. And I don't mean sitting on your computer and typing things out neat in Word. I mean writing out by hand, going to a printer where they set all the blocks to print your books, all the manual stuff that we used to do, writing these books. He would travel from city to city with all of his books in the back of his car or in his suitcase, living in hotels, just so that people could have access to the understanding of Kriya Yoga and meditation. This was from the late 50s, the 60s, the 70s, and the 80s. So it was nothing like the 1980s, the 1900s. It was nothing like today, where again, you can just jump on the internet and you have access to all this information. So he also had 2 children and was married. And so he worked very hard. He created this center. He had a family. And so the thread through all of this is that all these individuals were engaged in the world. They were not just sitting off in a cave somewhere. They were making sure that the work they did allowed more people to benefit from the knowledge they gained from their teacher. And so again, this comes back to the idea of the lineage, that these, even if you don't believe, even if you don't feel that metaphysical stuff I was talking about earlier, even if you think that's garbage, just to simply reflect upon how these individuals spent their lives so that we would have this authentic information of Kriya Yoga, the sacrifices they made with travel, with working long hours, you name it. Just to reflect upon that, that's over 150 years of dedication. And that has a power of its own. That should at least bring some sort of respect and appreciation on that alone.
Yes, and also imagining when I was reading about Lahiri Mahashaya, that he was working during the day and then he didn't go to sleep. He was just there for the disciples, for newcomers, for people from the street coming to his house to meditate or to probably also give some advice.
Yeah.
So he was basically going 24/7, and that's unimaginable for me.
Yeah.
That you know, sometimes I don't have the whole full night of sleep, and it's challenging. And then if I imagine people like this, like him, for example, having kids and then being there 24/7 for the family, and then for the people giving out Kriya Yoga, that's amazing.
Yeah.
And also you mentioned Sri Yukteswar and Yogananda, so I think that was probably the first thing he said to Yogananda, wasn't it? One of the first things when they finally met. Yeah. When Yogananda was very eager to get into self-realization, and one of the first things, please correct me if I'm not right, he told him was, as you said, go back to the college, go back to school. And
yeah,
he was very, very reluctant. He didn't want to go. He was finally at his master's feet, and he didn't want to go back to study. He wasn't a studying type, I think.
Right.
Type.
Well, that is a funny story, and I hope I remember it too, because I don't have autobiography of Yogi memorized. But you bring up a good point. He comes to his master's feet. He's been looking for him for years. They express their love and devotion to each other. Oh, I'm so glad to be here. And Sri Yukteswar says, well, will you do as I ask? And of course, Yogananda is like, oh, whatever you ask, you're my Guru Deva. And he says, I want you to go back home to your family, and I want you to go back to college. The two things he didn't want to do at all. And he was like, exactly. No, I won't do it.
Yes. Yeah.
He ended up doing it, but
yes. Yeah. Yeah. So yeah, this is one of the common thing, hard work, family life, not for everybody, but being in the world. That's what you meant, being in the world. And would you say anything else that is, my feeling has always been each of them, they represent a different kind of a human character. Each of them was different as a role model. But would you have anything to add to this, or anything else that you would find is good to mention about this lineage?
No, I think it's important what you just mentioned there about the differences. And we always have to remember that, yes, there were differences in presentation, but the core was the same. And I think we really need to pay attention to that. Sri Yukteswar was very austere. He was very disciplined. He was very strict. And he wasn't very outwardly devotional. And Yogananda, who was Sri Yukteswar's student, was kind of the opposite. When you read Autobiography of a Yogi, there's all kinds of emotion and devotion and getting caught up in different things. And then that wasn't Sri Yukteswar at all, but Yogananda was like that. And then oddly, funny enough, my teacher, Roy Eugene Davis, who learned from Yogananda, he kind of went back to the Sri Yukteswar way of being a little more austere, a little more strict and cut and dry, and this is the way it is, and so on. So ultimately, I think it's important to remember that when it comes to a tradition and a teacher, an outward presentation, it does make a difference. But what's important is the core message or the core practice the same? Because the thing about Kriya Yoga and yoga in general is that if you follow the process, it works. I was thinking about this today. If someone knows how to build a house, there's a way to build a house that works, and there's a way to build a house that doesn't work. And believe it or not, in spiritual traditions, there is a way to do it that it will work. If you follow one step to the next step to the next step, and you do it, you'll be like, oh, great, there it is. I figured it out. And that's very important that a tradition kind of maintains that process through time. We have to be very, careful about people who become, what's the word? Innovative with the practices. It's okay to innovate a practice, maybe to to deliver it in a different way, but the core of the practice really kind of needs to be the same for it to work. And in this tradition, that's the great thing about it, is that these practices have been perpetuated in that way through time.
Okay. And do you find anything specific about each, or how to say that? For example, if there is a new Kriya Yoga student and he doesn't have really much of a contact with, for example, he is or she interested into Kriya Yoga, but then there are the faces he doesn't know. And what would you advise to the new Kriya Yoga students, how to approach it, so that approach the lineage, or to get more in touch with the faces they don't know at all?
So you're talking about someone who might just be coming to learn and they just kind of like see the images and like, what's that all about?
Exactly. So they, for example, they get inspired. They know somebody who does Kriya Yoga. They don't know any of them. They don't know Yogananda. They don't know Sri Yukteswar at all. Yeah. They just come, they see all those faces. And how would you advise these new people to approach that from an impersonal, more universal point of view?
Yeah. Well, two things come up there. Number one, I would recommend, it's like, what's that all about? I would say, well, go read Autobiography of a Yogi and you'll find out who those people are. And so just kind of informing them about that information. Number two, I understand the question, but in my own, I guess, teaching style, I'll give introductory classes, like introductory classes to meditation or to yoga. And when I do those, I don't have the big altar and all of the pictures and the candles and things. I'm just teaching meditation, the practice, and then I'll recommend Autobiography of a Yogi and so on. So sort of for beginners, I just don't even really get into that. But if I see that they are really interested in meditation, or they read Autobiography of a Yogi afterwards, and then they feel like, okay, let's learn more about this specific kind of route, the specific lineage of Kriya Yoga, then it just makes more sense to them. So it really kind of depends on what's going on there. But I also am of the mind that, for example, with Kriya Yoga initiation and so on, that a person needs to have some preparation before they do that. I prefer that people have gone through at least the first year of my Kriya Yoga apprenticeship program before going through initiation, because I know that if they've gone through the 8 to 9 months of that training, well, number one, I know they're serious and they really feel inspired towards that path. But then they also know after that length of time whether this is right for them. And so just kind of bring it back together. If someone walked into my office and they saw Sri Yukteswar's picture back there, and, Ramana Maharshi over here, and, Yogananda's picture over there, well, then I might have to explain some things to them. But for beginners, I usually just don't even really get into that until they've read Autobiography of a Yogi and they kind of have a deeper sense of connection to that.
That's a very good point. That's a very good idea also, because we are human. Yeah. And somebody, we can like the image of somebody. We don't know the person at all, but it's just like the matter of first sight. Yeah. So this is actually a very, very good strategy, I think. Yeah. Because the people just really come for the meditation or for Kriya Yoga. And then later on, when they feel inclined, they can get to know more about the people, the gurus, the masters. Yeah. So I find it very good.
I mean, I had that issue. Okay. I don't mean to kind of harp on this a little bit, but I found that too. When I met my teacher and I went to the retreat center, as I mentioned, I was raised Catholic. I had read Autobiography of a Yogi, so I knew who they were, but I had no concept of this idea of lineages and these yogis and why do we have their pictures and so on. So I just wanted to meditate. That's how I became interested in Kriya Yoga. I took up an interest in meditation. I wanted to learn more. It seemed like Kriya Yoga was the best way to do it. And so I didn't have any of that. When I got started. And so I thought it was weird too. So I understand. I understand that.
Okay, perfect.
Yeah.
So Ryan, thank you very much. You really nicely again wrapped it up.
Yeah.
And I was thinking maybe in the future you either give me your videos that we can give subtitles to
Sure.
as far as the Kriya Yoga masters are concerned, or I'm also going to mention a couple of very good documentaries, and they will be linked under the video so that anybody can take a look and watch and maybe do their own research so that they get to know the masters better in case they are already interested in Kriya Yoga a little bit.
Yeah.
So,
and I think that's important, you know, to definitely to do your research, because whether or not we're coming at the idea of the masters of the lineage or the tradition in a spiritual or metaphysical way, just having that, we just need to know who they are. I mean, it's the same for anything in life. Whenever you get involved in any organization or with any person, and personally, I think that, you know, even if you're going to get in a relationship with someone, like a long-term relationship, a possible marriage, you know, you should really get to know the person's family first, so that you know what are you really getting into. Because it's one thing to love, you know, one person and think that's all, it's all going to work out, but they come with a whole bunch of other stuff, and you have to be able to relate to those. So the same thing is true when you're really spiritually seeking. It's extremely important to find out what is the source of the information that I am getting, and to find out, does this speak to me? Am I comfortable with this? Do I respect and do I relate to what's being shared here? And by learning about the teachers of a tradition, you're getting that. It's going to let you know exactly what you're going to be getting involved with. And so one way or the other, it's a beautiful thing just to have that information as you're beginning your path.
Mm-hmm. Okay. So Ryan, it was really nice talking to you again. Thank you a lot again for spending your time with us. And I'm going to look forward to our next session sometime in the future when you have time again, and we will cover some more parts or parts of Kriya Yoga teaching. So you have a very nice day. Thank you very much. It was nice seeing you.
You too. It was wonderful to see you, and it was wonderful to be together with everybody. Take care.
Take care. Bye-bye.
Bye.